Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
I am really excited and just really overjoyed to welcome as a guest to the show today, Vivian De Guzman. She is an international best-selling author, speaker, and founder of Transformational Wellness Academy and known as Human MRI. She is a fast transformational catalyst, licensed physical therapist, and medical intuitive. She's been an entrepreneur since the age of 21, starting and selling 2 businesses while working full-time as a physical therapist while being a mother to 4 children. Welcome, Vivian. I'm honored to have you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
And yes.
So, Vivian, the work that you do, I find it just really amazing and intriguing. What inspired you to do what you're doing today?
Well, there's 2 answers to that question. First, it was more the awakening of my gifts and talents by having a warning sign of a stroke, wherein I had my right-sided weakness, and I just suddenly had to reevaluate what I'm doing with my life back then. In about 2007, because I was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, all the way stressed out while working as a mother of 4 kids, right? I just had the baby, and I wanted to start my own business at that time again, right? Even if I already had a business that I was running, like a 2 boarding cares for the elderly, I wanted to do something more. Like there's a feeling inside that wanted me to do something more. I was thinking, what was I thinking, right? Because I just had a baby. Now I had 4th kid, running 2 businesses and working full-time as a physical therapist. So that was the beginning of my journey in the spiritual world. And then fast forward, I realized that how stress can damage someone's body, someone's mind, right? Someone's emotion. And I had to do a quick pivot, like fast. Long story short, within about 3 weeks, I recovered fully from that. But I also promised my spirit to do something else aside from what I was doing then, like a complete change in my lifestyle. And then eventually, I realized how good I am with all the struggles and obstacles I was going through at seeing people's obstacles in their past, present, future, and how that connects to money conversations and money stories that people have. And I didn't know at that time that I was good at clearing all these obstacles because I can see them with my 3rd eye, and I applied that in business. So that's how the journey began.
I'd love to take a bit of a deeper dive, if you don't mind, because money is such a hot button for so many people. Would you mind just sharing a little more detail around how someone's money story can connect to their individual, past, present, future experiences?
Yes, definitely. So we know that money is a trigger word for a lot of people. Actually, when you start talking about it several times, just putting it in a sentence, you can see other people's energy contracting. But it's because, just to introduce different terminology so they would understand what I'm talking about. So we know money is energy, but we also know that money is spiritual, right? But we have these, we call them energetic boundaries. And if you think of the rainbow colors, right? We have that around our whole physical body. We call that energetic boundaries or aura. So if I categorize the different energy fields, There's the spiritual field, which is the outermost field, the relational field, the emotional field, and the physical field. So if I define money in the physical terms, it's the tangibility of money, right? Like if either you get paid, you work for someone, you get paid, and you receive money. So that's the physicality of that, right? We have to have that in our lives in order to survive. That's the basic needs, right? Basic foundational needs that we have. But unfortunately, we've attached different meanings to money in the emotional field as well. So let's say you had a bad experience when you were a kid because maybe you didn't have enough, and your mom and you went to a grocery store, but then perhaps long time ago, your father used to pay for all the bills, and you, for example, if you don't have enough money and you're doing a checkout at the grocery store, you can't really take home, right, what you can't buy. So if you've attached a negative emotion about money at that time, that can linger as we get older, and we can interpret money as something good or bad, depending on the experiences that we attach to it. Now, in the relational field, it could be you have looked at money as perhaps you see something, your parents are fighting about it. It could be an issue of power versus love, because we live in this polarity world wherein there's positive, negative, yin and yang, right? Male, female. So if you think of money as, well, again, if you associate a meaning to it, because money is neutral, but then when we attach a different meaning to it, let's say you see it in your family, that someone who has more money has more control in the household, then you attach power to money, right? Or it's almost like a way for you to get love is to actually, let's say, earn more in your family. So then you say, well, perhaps love and money are connected. So it's all these different meanings that we attach to money that make it such a trigger word. And then on the spiritual side, think about if we go to church or if we have a community that we belong to, and again, they have their own collective thought about money, right? So if in your head, it's been ingrained in your belief system that money is the root of all evil, then you think of money as a bad thing. And it would be very difficult for you to even get to a certain amount of money you're bringing in or receiving because of that. So in my years of experience in treating a lot of these money blocks, it's very interesting that money, I've noticed, is really never the problem. It's the person's perception and belief systems about it that makes it hard for them to receive. So especially for those with spiritual business consciousness, money is not something that you somehow think you have to work hard to get ahead or to get it. It's more a receiving issue for most people. What are they unwilling to receive in order to receive the money that they deserve, the money that they're worthy of, right? So it's more a meaning attached to it that they have somehow believed that's causing them to receive or not receive it.
That makes so much sense. And I can imagine at how many aha moments there are going to be from people who are going to listen to our interview. Thank you so much for that. So valuable, such valuable advice and insight. Vivian, every experience in our lives, shapes who we are. Mm-hmm. What experience in your own life do you feel has been the most significant in shaping who you've become today?
When it came to money, because when I saw my parents, when I was growing up, you know how you witness how they argue about money for those people who have had the same experience, right? So I witnessed them a lot. And so I said to myself, I would definitely save up, right? There's certain things that has been impressed upon me, mostly by observation, by the way, because it doesn't really matter what your parents tell you, but then if they're doing something else, then you tend to follow what you've observed, right? So I saw them fighting a lot, and I thought, why would they fight over that? Because I had the opportunity to also manage that when my mom went to the United States and I was left in the Philippines to manage my two brothers. So I promised myself, I'm never going to have that experience, and I'm never going to fight over money, when I get married. Well, that's not true, because I copied what I saw, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when I was in physical therapy and I was making money, that wasn't really the issue, right? Like, I was just doing my thing, but I was exhausted. And that's what led me, like I said, to, I guess, go into the spiritual path and go, I'm not going to work like this. I feel like I was slaving for money. That was the feeling. And it's interesting because I've saved. I promised to myself I was going to save. So I saved a lot. Like, I saved in different vehicles, mutual funds, stocks, in different places. Because I thought in my head, the belief was, money must be limited. So I better save up as much as I can, which is like a hoarding mentality, which is more not enough, right? The belief system there behind my subconscious mind is money is not enough. So I got to the point that I had so much savings, but then I wasn't happy. You see the weird relationship there. And it's almost like I've saved up so much. We're talking 100,000 plus, right? Through my years of working for someone. And then the stock market crash, right? 2008. I probably lost about 80,000 then. But I didn't know that I lost it until years later, because I already lost it. I wasn't paying attention to it. In other words, I wasn't conscious that I had that. But I wasn't happy, remember? So it's almost like I created my own life of, what do I do with this thing? Like, I have money, but then now I want to own a business. And I started then, right? Having my own physical therapy practice. So I realized, hindsight, that I wasn't happy with who I was. And even if I saved enough, I wasn't happy. So I almost have to create this story of, well, let's see what happens if you don't have any. Okay. And then I went all the way down to having more than $125,000 in debt. And then I realized how I was connecting my self-esteem to that, which is not real, but somehow I thought I had no value when I didn't have money. Does that make sense? So it was through that difficult time that I realized that I needed to shift my mindset about it, about money in general and how I look at it. Because honestly, I was able to get some funds from the savings that I put away in the beginning, which was awesome. Most people don't have any savings, right? But I still didn't look at it as I had more than enough. So when I was able to clear a lot of my stories, which obviously came from deep ancestral wounds and all the programming I got from church and all the programming I had from my family, when I finally realized what it was and released all that energy clutter, I call it, then it really doesn't matter how much I had, right? So I got to the point that I realized that and cleared all that negative belief systems and attachments and cords to money, that when you don't, almost like when you don't need it and you don't want it anymore, that's when it comes to you. But I was able to shift to a bigger purpose rather than just earning money for money. Does that make sense? So it's,
yeah, no, it makes total sense. It's because you're no longer attached to it, beyond just the topic of money.
Mm-hmm.
That applies across the board. Whenever there's something that we want, and then we become attached to a specific outcome, it's like we block ourselves from receiving it, because each one of us by default, and you were talking about this as well, when your, ancestral conditioning, external environment conditioning and all of that, we're all a product of our experiences, what we've been conditioned. So when we become, when we start to think of outcomes based upon what we think is possible or not possible, we automatically block ourselves, because there's this whole universe, right, of infinite possibility. And we don't know what all those possibilities are. And it's not for us to, it's just for us to place our order per se, focus on what we want, but be open to all the ways that it can come to us.
Yes. And it's interesting that as I treated other people, so a lot of times, like I said, they didn't come to me because they have money problems initially. They just came because they have a health issue, right? As a medical intuitive, or they call me human MRI for that matter, because I can see the inside of the body in 5D. And it's sometimes it would be like their liver would hurt, like that area on the right rib cage, but then they had this repressed anger or some suppressed emotion that they haven't let up in like 10, 20 years, right? Or sometimes it's not even theirs, it's their ancestor. And sometimes it's connected to a relationship. And when I say, well, it seems like you have to release this issue with your, let's say, grandfather, and you need to talk to your grandfather, either dead or alive, it doesn't matter. And once they resolve that and they feel good about how they are in relationship to that person, of course, their money flow opens up, right? So everything about money is not always what it seems, like I said, because of all the different boundaries that I spoke about earlier. So it's not always what you think, because your mind will always lead you to some answer that's a dead end based on the past, based on the history. But it's way beyond what your mind can even figure out what is, right?
Yeah.
And when you clear the root cause of that issue, oh my God, it's just like, it's like opening a faucet of money and then you just have to receive. That's the magic behind it. It's not like what you think, like you have to save up and you have to do this way. There's no, well, for me, it's never linear, right? It's all about a quantum jump or a quantum leap all the time. So you can be broke. Like I had a client from zero and then made 120K in like 90 days. And then they're like, what happened? How did that happen? But it's because we're not going linear. Like you're not supposed to do it this way. You just open up. That's the difference there. In the process.
And that belief system, I was just going to say, is so common too, right? That we have to work hard to get what we want.
Sad, but true.
Yes.
It's like deeply ingrained. But, I want to enlighten the viewers on that, or the listeners. And if you think about, I was meditating one day and I was praying and communicating above. And I said, how is it? Because, I can look at almost like a gauge, like an energetic gauge, and say, so how much clarity do I have on a certain topic? And at that time I was thinking about money, and then I got this number 60%. And I was kind of upset. I go, well, God, I have been working on myself for years doing this energy work. How come it's still 60%? I was like pissed. And then I heard the voice saying, well, if you're 100%, then where will I come in your life? Like, how can I support you in your life, right? So if I figured it all out, then God can't really help me at that time. Does that make sense?
Oh,
so,
it makes total sense.
So that was an aha. That was a big aha.
I always think of us as eternal students, right?
Yes.
It's like there's always a next level of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
And even if you get to 80%, by the way, it's so interesting because your last 10 or 20% of whatever that obstacle is, you think you know, but that's really what's hidden deeply in your subconscious and unconscious. Because if you do know, you would have done it already, right? And that's where we come in as helpers for a lot of the business owners, because they're busy doing other things. And so you're thinking, well, everything's working until it's not, right? So,
yeah.
yes.
So there are, for those out there who are at that crossroads right now, feeling called to pursue their purpose, start a business, or even make a career change, what advice would you have for them to be able to take action today? Because the fear of the unknown is a real thing for a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm. So I think of this as your soul is your boss, because the soul will always want you to grow and expand. So if we're looking at truth, love, freedom, joy, all of the things we want, your soul is asking you to grow up, basically, right? If you listen to that calling, your soul will basically control your heart, because your heart will say, I'm not happy about this. So positive or negative feelings are indicators, especially the negative ones, that we got to do something else aside from what we're doing. So if you think of soul controls your heart, and then your heart tells your mind what to think, and then your mind tells your body what to do. That's why it's good to have those mindset shifts, because even if you're doing all the right things, you're eating well, but then your mind thinks, oh my God, this is so much hard work. Well, you're still going to get resistance. Resistance or pain, right? Those are how it shows up in our body as pain. I always tell people that you think you will find your purpose, but your purpose actually finds you when you're ready. Because once your soul purpose and you are in alignment, almost like your life is not yours anymore, because God works through you and you're working towards that purpose, right? Like you're working towards the achievement of that purpose in this lifetime. So your soul purpose can be a good mom, right? To be a good mom. It could be to build a legacy. It could be to build this business or to help certain people, your ideal clients. So all of us have multiple purpose, but what makes you really joyful, like inside, there's this happy feeling that almost like money cannot replace that. It's just, you just feel good. So I always say that financial problems are always related to some emotional issues. They're always connected, all right? Because there's something there that's unresolved. And until you resolve that, and I had that even before. So I think of myself first, and then the family, and then your business, right? So if your business is not working well, either there's some issues in the family or there's some issues within yourself that you need to resolve. So it starts with you, because you're the magnet of your own universe. So you can't like blame, it's just, oh, it's that person I hired. It's never that person outside of you. It's always you. So when you look at yourself and go, okay, my universe is mirroring to me this. What do I do now, right? How can I shift that? How can I show up differently? And when you do that, then everything somehow opens up also for you.
I love that. And it makes so much sense. I often say, that our mind is a faithful servant, right? But it's of this life only. Our soul is eternal. It craves expansion, and it has the blueprint for us.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian, how can someone find you if they want to connect with you or learn more about you? Where is the best place for them to go?
All right. So they can either, if they would like to connect to one of my teammates for clarification if we're a good fit to work together, they can go to overwhelm911.com and book a call. Or if they want to see me and get more information and education about money magnet activations, right, for businesses or even for personal, I have a TV show called My Spiritual Money RX, and that's every Wednesday at 12 p.m. It's aired through Facebook Human MRI, that's the page, or Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Apple TV, Android TV, and YouTube called Vivian Money Magnet. So I have multiple platforms that they can see me every Wednesday at 12.
Great, and we'll be sure to include those links in the show notes as well.
Yes. Oh, and if they want to connect with me, my email is vivian@feelbetterrehab.com.
Awesome. Vivian, it was such an honor to have you, and what a great conversation we had today. Thank you so much for coming on as a guest.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and On Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakeandonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.